Welcome to BlenderMeds. In this tutorial we are going to create a short medical animation showing a bilipid layer. We will create all the models needed, set up the scene with some animation and a basic particle simulation and render it out. I hope you enjoy this tutorial and please don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Okay, so we're going to start off by modelling the objects we need for this scene. So the first one will be the lipid. To start off with that we just need to create a cube. Go into the modifier tab, add a subsurf at 1 and just click apply. Now we want to go to the underside of that sphere, go into edit mode, select this polygon and this one and just go I for insert and just insert it down to about there. Do the exact same for the other side, I for insert to about there. With those two selected, right click, go to loop tools and circle and do the same for this side, circle. Okay. Select all 4 polygons, go into orthographic view and just move them down to about there, and then for your pivot point set to individual origins and just scale these down slightly to about there. So now what we want to do is flatten these 4 polygons. So hit spacebar, just go into scale and just go down on the Z like this until they're reasonably flat. Okay, move this up on your screen and hit E for extrude and extrude the legs down roughly about there, and then the same again, and then one more, but this time not as far, to about there. And then with your pivot point set individual origins as before, just scale those down. Okay. Select the object, go to object, smooth shade, and then we will just add a subsurface modifier. Okay, so there's our lipid. Now we're just going to do a couple more things to it. Go into the orthographic view, edit mode, and add a couple more edge loops here onto the legs. One there, same on the other side, and down here, like that. Okay. Now in edit mode, edge, just Alt and left click to select. Go to your transform tool and just move them off, give them a little bit of random shape to them. Something like that. You don't have to follow this exactly, just do your own thing here. Ring select them all. Loop select. Loop select. And go in object mode. Let's just add a bit more to this one. So loop select that one, just bring it in. And maybe we'll do the same here, bring that out. And object mode, that looks fine. Okay, so we're going to duplicate this and just put one underneath. So just Control C and Control V, copy and paste. Grab the second one, R for rotate on the Y, and hold Control to snap it. And just go to 180. There you go, you can confirm that here, 180 degrees on your rotation. And then we just want to move that down. That's fine. Okay, if you wanted to, you could go into this lower one, edit mode, and just grab these edge loops, just so they're a bit different to the top one. And there's our main lipids. So we're going to join those together. We just want them to be one mesh. So select them both and go Control J to join them. You'll see they've joined into one object here, and just rename it Lipid. Also going to apply a material to it now. It's called Lipid. Great. So we are also going to want to just create a Lipid Head. This will be for the background Lipids instance, and I'll show you why you do that later on in the tutorial. So just select Lipid, duplicate it, select the new one, go into edit mode, go into polygons, just select loops that are going around there, and there, and grow your selection, so control and the numeric keypad plus to about there, delete faces, select that bottom one, control L to select linked, delete faces. So we'll rename this Lipid Head, and we'll just give it the same material as the Lipid. Okay, so that's the Lipid and the Lipid Head done. Next we want some molecules for the background. We're just going to use a simple icosphere there. Just crank that up to 3. Select the object, smooth shade. You can add a subsurf modifier to it if you want. These will be in the background, so you may not need it. We'll just leave it off for now. And we're just going to call that molecule. And also give that a surface material. Okay, great. Now, the next object we're going to create will be the channels that are going through the lipid layer. So to do that, we're going to start with a torus. It's a little bit skinny, so we're just going to play around with it until we get the kind of shape we want. So the major radius to about 0.5556. That's fine. So that is going to be our background lipid, our background channel. So just select it and get object, smooth shade. This will need subsurf modifier. There we go. Yep, just one's fine. And then we will give it a material and call it channel. And we'll also rename it BG channel for background channel. Okay. Now we also need a cross section of the channel for the front part of the lipid layer that we're creating. So to do that, we will just duplicate this. Okay, we'll call this FG channel for the foreground channel. Turn the background channel off. Then go into edit mode, and we're going to grab. How are we going to do this? So go to vertices. Let's go to wireframe. Go to orthographic view. Let's just try this. Grab these. Just move these down. Okay. Now we want this to be tall enough that it fits into the lipid layer. So we'll just view the lipid in the background. So remove that. So it's just above there. So it's just above there. That's okay. We can change the scale of this later. And we will 1, 2, 5, 8 sections. So that's for the inner one. And do 8 again for the outer surface of the channel. Let's have a look at that. Okay, we're going to need to scale this up quite a bit, so we're going to go to object mode, scale, just scale up like that. You want it to be a few lipids kind of wide. Okay, that should be fine. Now we need to chop it in half. So just go into polygon mode, and loop select there and there, delete faces, select that, Control L to select linked and delete faces. Okay, great. So now we just need to create these flat front edges. So just go into edge mode, select that edge and the corresponding edge on the other side, which that should be fine. And then go to points and select the two lower points and just keep hitting F. There we go. And we want to have 3 edge loops to match up to these points. So Control R, scroll your mouse wheel to get 3. Go into edge mode, select that edge there, I'll zoom in a bit so it's a bit easier to see. So we're selecting this edge and this edge, hit F to make the face, select the points, and just keep hitting F until it closes up. That's fine. And we'll do the same down the bottom. So we just select those two edges, make a face, and then do the same again. Okay, and then we've got to do the same on the other side. So this is a cross section of our channel. I'm going to sharpen these front faces up. So just go in edit mode, Control R to add an edge loop, and just bring that up to the front. Do that on both sides. That looks okay. Right, that's foreground channel. Got the background channel. Don't worry too much about the scales or things. We'll change that when we set up the scene. We've got the lipids, so we've got the lipid there, we've got the lipid head, and we've got a simple sphere for a molecule. The last thing we need to model is the main grid that we're going to be using to instance all these objects. So just create a grid. You need a lot of polygons here, so 100 by 100. And we'll change it to 10 meters. Okay, so we're going to edit mode. You can see we've got a lot of detail here, and we need this for, as each polygon is going to have a lipid on it. So go in object mode, and we will name this plane. Now we're going to come across a performance problem here once we start to instance the lipids. So I'll show you that now. So we can turn lipid on. Okay, and we're going to parent that under the plane. So grab your lipid, hold down shift and set it as a child of the plane. Then select the plane, go into the object tab, instancing, and go faces. And that's way too big. So grab the lipid and we'll just scale that down to about there. Okay, now this has obviously come right off the plane here. So with the lipid selected, just zero that out, and that'll bring that back to where we want it to be. Okay. Now in this particular case, it's actually the viewport performance is pretty good. But what we're going to do is, for anyone with an older machine, is we are going to turn the instancing off. Go into edit mode, point selection, and we're going to grab the first few rows of these points here. Maybe go to 5. we're going to separate that into a new mesh. So we've got we'll call this background plane, and we will call this foreground plane. Okay, so the foreground plane is going to instance the lipid, the whole lipid. The background plane is just going to instance the lipid head. Okay, so we're going to grab the lipid head and parent that to the the background plane. And we're going to grab the lipid, and we're going to just reparent that to the foreground plane. Okay, so you can see this lines up again. So we'll grab lipid, make sure that's zeroed out, and we'll go to the background plane, grab the lipid head, zero that out, go to the background plane, turn on faces. You can see we've got that same issue where it's way too large, so we scaled the lipid to 0.069, so we'll do the exact same thing for the lipid head. And there we have it. So that's a lot easier on your computer. We're not going to see the legs at the back of the lipid layer around here, so there's just no need to have them there. Now these lipids are all facing, I prefer if they turned 90 degrees facing the camera. Grab the lipid, rotate it on the Z. So it's more like that. That's better. That's good. Okay, so we've got our lipid layer set up. We're now going to place our channels where we want them to be. So turn on the foreground channel and just move that to the front of the scene, and as you can see it's way too big, so just scale that right down. Move it up. Just move it to about there. That's fine. Now we have an issue where we have the lipids poking through, and we don't want that. So grab the lipid foreground plane, go into edit mode, go into polygon, select, let's just turn the instancing off. So you want to select these polygons here. So these three polygons, maybe that one there. If we go into wireframe we can see it better. Select all of those and just delete them. Okay. Go back into object mode and turn instancing back on, and they've disappeared, so that's great. Now the background channel, I'll turn that on. Okay. We will move that. Let's just scale it down so it matches. Yeah, about there. Move that to anywhere you want. In fact, we'll set up a camera now so we know what our shot's going to look like. Lock camera to view. Zero number pad to go in the camera view, and just move out and set your camera up. So it'll be somewhere like that. Zoom in a bit. I think that looks okay for now. So we will move this channel, let's say over there, and we'll duplicate it. Move another one to another position, maybe in the background. Like that'll do for now. Save the scene. Okay, so we've got the basics of the scene set up. We don't need the molecule just yet. Now you'll see that we have the same issue here with the lipids in the center. So you go through the same process as you did here. If we go to our camera view, it's not really evident at the moment, so I'm not going to worry about them. But if you need to, if your camera view is different, just go in there and delete those polygons and get rid of those. So next thing we're going to do is just make this look a bit more natural. The lipid layer is just too linear. You can see the lines going down there. It's not organic, it just doesn't look right. So we're going to change that up a bit. So go into your background plane, go into the modifier tab, add modifier, and go to displace. Texture, add a new one, and then go into the texture tab and change that to clouds. Now we only want this to happen on the Z. We only want to, we're going to have multiple displacements on this to give it a nice look. So this one is for the Z only, so up and down, and we are going to make it quite a bit bigger so it gets a nice kind of wavy feel to it, like that. Even bigger again, maybe 8, no, 7 will do, I think. Okay, go back into your displacement tab, just play around with the strength until there's something that you're happy with. I think one's fine, and leave it at that. And we also want some kind of left and right movement to these lipids. So again, go into your add modifier, add another displacement. Okay, and we're going to do this on the Y. I'm going to grab a new texture, go in texture mode, select that one, it's clouds again, but this time make it really small. Something like that. Then go back into your modifier tab, go to the displacement on the Y, and just shrink that right down. So maybe, okay. So I don't know if this is a bug with Blender 2.8, but this seems to have taken on the second texture. Just set that back to the first texture we made, and on the second one we'll just play around with this. See how we're getting some nice left and right movement there? You can go back in here and select that one and go even smaller if you want. That needs to be reset back to there, and then just play around with this value. Don't want to go too far, that's fine. Let's call it 0.2. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing again. Displace the second texture. And we're going to go on the, what was the first one? That's on the Y, so we're going to go on the X. And make that 0.2 as well. So that just looks a little bit more natural than what it did before. And we can play around and tweak these. Actually might make that one a bit smaller, so we'll go back into the texture, make it 5, even 3 maybe. Just play with it. There we go. Yeah, I think that's a bit more interesting. And then we'll just tweak these again, maybe 0.1. No, that's not enough, so I don't know why these are popping out down the back there, like that 0.2. Let's just go into the texture and we'll just play with this a little bit. Try hard and just see what it looks like. This needs to be reset again, back to that. And we can play around with these. So I'm going to set that to 0 and we'll just work on this one. That needs to use texture. Okay. And that needs to use a big texture. There we go. There we go, that's a bit better. And seems is like 0.2, so that's what we'll leave it at. I think that looks fine. And then we want to do the same thing for the front or foreground lipid plane. So select the foreground plane, displace on the Z, select the first texture. We'll just add all these up and then we'll match them together. This one goes the second texture, it's going to be the Y. Again to the second texture, and this can be the X. Okay, so the foreground, the background plane, that was set to -0.4 for the Z. So we'll just match these up. I think the others are all just 0.2. There we go. Okay, so that's a bit more interesting. But now we want to animate it. So there's a few ways you can do this. Quite often I'll just use a texture created in an application like Fusion, but we'll keep this all in Blender. So you want to create a null or empty. Okay, let's just call that Displacement Control. We're then going to want to go to the background channel, background plane, and for the Z one, Z displacement, go Object and pick the Displacement Control, and do that as well for the foreground plane, Z, Object, Displacement Control. Okay, so now if we select that Displacement Control, we can just rotate it and just get nice little bit of movement in there. Okay, and be careful not to go too far with it, just keep it nice and okay. Great, so to animate that, we want it to be quite subtle, we don't want a huge amount of movement, and we're going to do this animation over, let's say 250 frames. So grab your null, grab your null there and just click on automatic keyframes, create a keyframe, and then go to 250 and just give it a very, very small amount of movement. You can even do it in a few different axes, like that. And if we play that through, that's way too small. Let's try again. We'll move this. So have a play around with this and get something that you like. Okay, that looks a bit better. Play that through. It's probably a bit too fast. So let's go into the curve editor. So let's just move these down. Until we get something that we like. Trying to get rid of these random ones floating around. I'm not sure what's going on there yet. So we'll just play around with these until we get something that we like. We're going to make these linear as well, because what's happening is the effect is slowly ramping up. So you don't have much going on there and then suddenly it just goes really fast and then it slows down again. We want that to be the same all the way through. So select all of those and change that to linear. There we go. So it's going to be the same speed the whole way through. And I'm going to move those around a bit just to speed things up. Go a bit crazy here and see what happens. Okay. So I'm just going to go to the front. You can see up here when I'm playing, I'm not getting the full frame rate, so it's not a really good indication of what it's looking like. So I'm just going to speed things up. I'm going to go to the foreground plane, object, instancing, and just turn the instancing for that off. And in fact we can turn off the channels as well. And let's just see if that speeds things up now. Not a huge amount. So let's try something else. Let's go to the Lipid Head. And let's just turn subdivision off. How does that help? Again, not much, so let's see what's going on here. Let's change that to 30 frames per second. Let's turn this, let's just go into our there we go. So having two viewports on was really slowing me down there. So let's just play that. If we can try and ignore what's going on down here, I think the movement of that's okay. Let's throw the front one on now and see if we can get that showing. Oh yeah, there we go. And we're still at 30 frames per second, so that's great. That looks fine to me. We just got to work out what's going on with these random ones floating around. Okay, so it's going to be to do with the displacement, just throwing them the normals all over the show, as you can see here. So we need a way to work that out, to fix that. Okay, so it was minus 0.4. Okay, so there you go, it's the Y texture that is causing the issue. Let's drop that down to 0.2, 0.15. Let's have a look through the camera view. It's okay, let's kind of fix that. Play that through. Okay, we're going to do the same to the front. Instance geometry, because you can see we've got some rogue ones going on there. So foreground plane. There we go, 0.15. Let's play that through. I'm not worried about the ones going off here because they're not going to be seen. So yep, that's fine. Okay. So that is set up. Let's save the scene. Now the problem we're going to come across is with the channels. We turn those on, we hit play. They're not moving with the layer, the lipid membrane. Okay, so we're going to work on that. So the first thing we're going to do is just turn off the background plane, the background channels. We don't need them right now. Go to the foreground plane, object, and just turn off the instancing. Now we want to parent this to one of the points on this mesh here, which would be either one of these points here. Okay, so go into object mode, select the channel, select that instancing layer, go to edit mode and select that point right there on the membrane layer. Okay, and then we go vertex, make vertex parent, make vertex parent. Okay, and then we go back to object mode and you'll see it'll disappear. So just grab your channel and zero those off. Okay, now if we play through that, it's now matched up to that membrane. So back to foreground plane, select that and turn your faces and your instancing back on. Grab your channel and just move it to how we had it before. Okay, that's great. So we're going to do the exact same thing for the background channels. So turn off your foreground plane, foreground channel, turn on your background plane and your two background channels. The background plane, turn off your instancing again. Okay, select that object and this object. So select the channel and then select the membrane. Edit mode. Select that point. Vertex. Make vertex parent. Make vertex parent. Object mode. That'll fly off again. Just center that. We'll zero your location out. Okay. And exact same thing here again. Select the channel, shift select the membrane, edit mode, vertex, select the vertex in the center, vertex, make vertex parent, make it vertex parent, and object mode, and then zero out the location. Okay, so you can see they're stuck right on the membrane surface, which isn't what we want, so we'll go back to the background plane and we'll turn instancing back on. Okay, turn on the instancing. Now you see it's gone instance these channels as well. Okay, so the easiest way to fix that, grab the background plane, just turn the instancing off, grab that, duplicate the background plane, okay, and move these background channels, actually no, don't do that, move the Lipid Head underneath that second background plane, okay, and then turn on instancing there, and grab these and just move them to where you want them to be. Play that and see what happens. Okay, that works. Now they're moving together. That's great. Okay. Now we're just going to use the molecule that we created and add some background particles. Okay, so we've got the same issue there with the channel. So we'll just do the exact same thing. Okay, select that, duplicate it, move the lipid into this one, select that one and just turn that off. That solves that problem. We're going to need an emitter for the background particles, so just add a cube. And you just want to size it up so it covers what we see in the camera view. me a minute, put that there. Okay, now we'll go to the camera view. This is on top, about there. And we don't need it to be that high, so just grab this polygon here, move it right down. Go back in your camera view and just move it to about there. Okay. In fact, we can shrink it down as well because we're not going to see any particles that are outside of this camera area. There's no sense in having them if we're not going to see them. So we'll just shrink that down. About that's fine. Okay, so grab that cube and call it molecule emitter. Go into object and go to viewport display, make it bounding box. Okay, and then we want to add a particle system, so new particle system. We want the frame start to be 1 and the end to be 1, so it creates all the particles at once. And then under render, pick object, and then under object drop down there, pick the molecule. There we go. And we will play with the size. We want them to be, yeah, that's about it, about 0.03. For the emitter, we want it to emit from volume. We probably don't need that many, so let's knock that down to 250. Let's have a look. I think that will do for now. Okay, you can see they're all dropping through, so go into the gravity, just turn gravity off. Okay. They're still moving out, so select your particle system, go to velocity, normal, set that to 0. And they're still moving. That's working now. Okay, and then we're going to add in a force field, just a turbulence. Let's play that and see what happens. Too strong. Let's grab your field. There you go. Strength, just make that 0.1. Our particles are popping off, they're not lasting long enough. So lifetime, do that for the length of the animation, 250 frames. Play that through. Yeah, that's okay. We'll go to the force field and make the size play around with this. Just going to play around with these and try and get the settings I want. That's okay, that works for me. Great. Okay, so we have the scene set up. We've got the lipids moving. We've got the channels tied to the lipid layer, and we've also got some background molecules going on. So now it's time to get into hopefully making it look good. We're going to start with using, actually we're going to do it in cycles because that's what I use normally in production. So if we go into shading, and then we will just look through the camera, and let's just see what we've got to start off with. To turn that box off, you want to go into your particle settings, viewport display, show emitter, and that turns that off. Right, so we're going to set up some lights first. So I'm just going to go into the world and make that black. Okay. I'm going down here and just make this another 3D viewport. And we're going to add a light. We'll add an area light. And let's just move this around. So I want to try and get a little bit of shadowing on the lipid heads. Coming from a bit of an angle there. Yeah, I think I like that. We've got a little bit of shadowing happening with the molecules and the lipid heads. So we'll keep that there. And then I'm just going to add a another area light. We'll try this out. Move this up. And we'll make it bigger. I can try something else. We'll delete that area light. And I'm just going to add in a background image. Background. Environment texture. Okay, and we'll just lower the strength of that down. You still want to see the shadowing from the light. Point one's fine. Okay, you see we've got the geometry that's instancing the front lipids shown there as well. So we've got foreground plane there. Which one is it? It's that one there. Select that. Go into render instancer. There we go. Okay, great. So happy enough with that. Now we'll get into shading. So to speed the process up, we are going to turn off what we don't need. So we're going to start on this channel. So we don't need the battery. We will have the background channels on. We'll just turn off everything else for now, so it's really quick. There we go. And turn off these molecules. Okay, so select the hero or the front channel. Go into shader editor. Let's get something happening. Okay, so I'm going to give it a purple colour. It works. Let's go to these background ones just while we're here and add them to the channel shader. Okay, I'm going to turn the roughness down so you can get a bit of nice specular on there. Let's turn up some subsurface scattering, make them nice and soft. And let's just shrink that down to. Okay, there we go. Add a little bit of bump to it. So just grab a noise, vector, bump. Scale that up to 15, change the height to 0.1, a bit more. I might just drop this to, is that like, okay, 0.3. I'm happy with that white, just softens them a bit, it's nice. Okay, let's call that done for now. So let's do the easy one. Let's turn off the channels. Let's make the molecule. We're just going to make that a kind of a light blue colour. Okay. Don't need to do a huge amount to this, so that'll do for that. We can tweak these later. Alright, now let's look at the lipids. Okay, so we'll turn the lipid head off. Just focus on the lipid itself. Let's create, I'll just add some subsurface scattering. Make that a bit of a yellowy colour. Actually, let's change that to white. That's right. Roughen this down. Just want to get a little bit of a hot spot there. And play around with this. I'm trying to get quite a bit of subsurface scatter on this. Let's change that colour up. Let's change that colour to a see how that looks. The lipid head should have the same. Okay, let's turn everything on and see what we got. Okay, we're still seeing this foreground plane here, so which one is that? There we go. We've got that large molecule in the background, so we'll just grab that. Just move it down out of the way. And away. There we go. There's our molecules. Too keen on that blue. What colour do I want? Let's make it red for now. Okay, not digging the lipids. I'm going to work on those a bit more. Go for more. Oh, that's a bit better, something like that. Okay, that's okay. Right, save the scene. Now we're going to add some depth of field. So select the camera, go to the camera properties. Okay. For the focus object, we can just have the foreground channel and just play with the settings. So you want it to be blurred in the background, but you still want to see what's going on there. I think that's too strong. Still too strong. I think that's a bit better. Okay, so I'm going to save that. I'm going to do a test render. So I'm going to shrink it down to 50%. Render, we're going to try 128 just for now and see what happens. So let's render that. Okay, so that's looking alright. It's obviously way too noisy, and we've still got this foreground emitter showing up, so let's try and fix that. There we go. Is that the issue there? So when I'm doing quick re-renders like this, I always set my even down to something really low, like 5. Just there we go. Store that. So let's try again. There you go. It's gone now. Okay, easy as that. So I'm happy with that. So I will set this off to render. Well, actually, I'm not happy with that. Sorry. So what I'm going to do is just refine the amount of samples. So I'm going to put that up to 256, and we'll go into the layers and put on denoising. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to just set that to 128 with denoising, and we'll see what it looks like. So we'll render that again. I think that looks pretty good. I think I'm going to call that done, and I'm going to send this off to the farm. So I hope you've gotten something from this tutorial, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.